Welcome to Get Offset. My name is Emily.
I'm Jodie Bart.
And are these the same song? Just real quick. Serious question.
All right. Shoot.
And are they
Yeah.
the same song?
No, no, no.
I don't think they are either. But for some reason, Ed Sheeran is getting his pantsuit off him, or is still trying to suit
Again.
off. And different ways to get his pants off, by saying he stole the chord progression from Marvin Gaye's "Let's Get It On." Another Ed's estate who wrote the song with Marvin Gaye
Ed
is
Townsend.
is suing Ed Sheeran, saying that Ed stole the three, I'm sorry, the 1, 3, 4, 5 chord progression for his song "Let's Get It On."
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Ed's is kind of more like 1, 1 with 3 in the bass, 4, and 5. So, I'd say the second chord is kind of an implied third there. You don't need to really understand music theory to know they're not literally the same chords. I'm not sure they're literally the same key. I'm pretty sure they're not the same
They're
key.
not.
They're like
Mm-mm.
a half step different or something.
Yeah, it's E flat major is Let's Get It On, and I think Thinking Out Loud is D.
Yeah, so one half step
Mhm.
difference.
Yeah.
The melodies aren't the same.
No.
They both
No.
kind of, like, have a similar feel, but the
It's a
melodies
style. I
aren't
mean,
the same. Yeah,
yeah.
it's so Marvin Gaye's estate successfully sued the songwriters from Blurred Lines, including Robin Thicke and Pharrell,
Yep.
uh, for stealing, quote, like, "the groove" of that song, and if you put them next to each other on sheet music, they're not the same. If you put these next to each other in a chord chart, they're not the same. Why does this keep happening? I'm pretty sure Marvin Gaye's family lost this lawsuit in 2019. Why does it keep coming back?
I just sense a little bit of desperation.
I'm gonna guess money
Yeah.
and greed
Yeah.
and, the desire to ruin copyright law and intellectual property for everybody for the rest of
Yes.
time.
If that actually like if they win, I mean, it sets a really, really dangerous precedent going forward for any musician or any creator really using like just those chord like any just 4 chords.
Yeah. I mean, there are a few things you need to prove copyright infringement, for
Hmm.
a song. One is access, and obviously everyone in the English-speaking world has, for the most part, had access to the song "Let's Get It On." So there's that. The other one's substantial similarity, and I would not call this similarity substantial. I'm also not a lawyer, but if I was on this jury, uh, I would just say, no, they're not the same. They're just not the
No.
same. And one of the things that, this estate is claiming is that in concerts, Ed will be playing Thinking Out Loud, and then he'll play Let's Get It On over the same chords because they are similar. They are fairly similar, substantially similar. I don't know about
Yeah.
that. I
I
really
mean,
don't think so.
a lot of artists, as you see, will do mashups. It's kind of like an entertainment thing or kind of like an intermission in a way. And like, hey, let's see how many songs that are sound kind of similar we can fit in, kill a little bit, of time. But yeah, I mean, just because you play 4 chords doesn't mean, hey, sue me?
I mean, Elvis Costello, when playing Allison, frequently goes into, Tracks of My Tears because they have similar chord
Similar.
progressions. I don't think Smokey Robinson's interested in suing Elvis Costello over that. I think if anything, it kind of is what keeps the song alive. We really take for granted the idea that everyone's always going to hear songs like "Let's Get It On," which came out in
Yeah.
1973, if I recall correctly, and know it forever. But the truth is, you will always need newer, younger artists like Ed Sheeran to keep legacies going. or you'll need it to be in movies, TV shows, commercials, on the
Yeah.
radio still. Like, you need these songs need to keep being played. There were songs that were huge in the 20s, 30s, 40s, even 50s that we don't that just were not like this is not in our lexicon anymore. Huge
No.
songs that inspired other songs that are referenced in other big songs and movies. We're just like, don't know it.
At least for the most part. I mean, you could have like let me see. s- I would think the 40s would be the Andrews sisters. You know,
Oh
you don't really hear
yeah.
much of them anymore, and they were very
Yeah.
popular in those days. That's why I had to look it up and make sure I was right.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
I love listening to them.
the
Yeah.
most you see the Andrews sisters in popular culture is when SNL did, like, the ladies turning into raccoons at the end of the night skit. Do you remember that one? That was a
Oh
great
my
one. If
god.
you haven't it's, like, got Kate McKinnon and all those women, and they're, like, doing
I
Andrews
love Kate.
sisters shit,
I love
and then
Kate.
yeah, and then they start, like, singing about, like, eating garbage. I don't remember it. I'm not sure I remember this very correctly. I was laughing too fucking hard. But, it was like yeah, that was the kinda thing. But let's go back to
Yeah.
songs with the 1, 3, 4, 5 progression. The Beatles' "I Feel Fine," which obviously came out before 1973 because the Beatles broke up by then. "Crocodile Rock" by Elton John, and Rod Stewart's "Have I Told You Lately." Those are all songs that
I
use that same
told
progression according
you.
to True Fire. So
Yeah.
it's really popular, um, and just in R&B in general, which you can say, maybe Marvin Gaye is kind of like at least Ed Sheeran's got some R&B influences. I know he's been influenced by TLC. I'm pretty sure he was influenced by TLC for Shape of You, but I might be remembering that one wrong. But like lots of these influences, R&B likes to do ascending chord progressions like that. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
really cool.
similar climbing diatonic chord progression. They'll have like a pushed rhythm on the second and the fourth chord of the progression. Bass guitar and drums playing simple like groove in unison, like
Mhm.
vocal melody. Starting on like the second beat of the bar.
Yeah, that's it's a formula that you start with
Yeah,
and then you make adjustments to because you have to learn how other people write songs before you
of
can learn
course.
how to write songs. It's like you
Yes.
don't just start playing your own guitar shit. You learn other
Mm-mm.
people's things. But the chord progression, if you don't know a lot about music theory, you probably know a bit of what a scale is, the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. So it's the do, mi, fa, so. I think do, re, mi, fa, so. Yeah. So if it was an E, I'm going to start with an E chord. The 2 would be an F sharp minor. The 3 would be a flat minor. Someone's going to yell at me for using sharps or flats wrong. And then you have an A major,
It's fun.
and then you have a B. And so in R&B, it's maybe major seventh chords in there instead. Major 7, major 7. So like it's you take that progression, you make some
Hmm.
variations, maybe seventh chords, maybe sixth chords, whatever floats your
Yeah.
boat, and you make it your own. I mean, how many people have written songs just starting with the 1 4 5?
Yeah.
A lot
I
of
mean, if
people.
also if we want to take let's get it on that kind of chord progression, if anybody remembers like the Wii golf game, that sounds very similar as well. If you want to say, I guess maybe they could also after this sue Nintendo as well.
Oh, that's more
It's
money,
used.
man.
Yeah,
That's
it
where the money
is. You
is.
see, that's where they should have gone. But yeah, I mean, it's something that is within a style of music where you're going to see a common kind of, family tree of chord progressions, in which will be typically used within that kind of expression of music styles.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Ed Sheeran probably has taken things from other songs. I think he's had to make other people's songwriters on his songs after the fact, and that's kind of common in music nowadays. Sam
Hmm.
Smith, their song "Stay with Me," basically just gave up some songwriting credit to Tom Petty because it was more similar. I still don't really think that was fair because it was
Mhm. Yeah.
da da da. Give me like it's just very simple. It has to be unique. It has to be substantially similar, and you have to have access. Like you this shouldn't be passing the test of, is it unique enough? Is it groundbreaking enough? Is this something that's obviously been stolen? Like My Sweet Lord, the George Harrison song,
Mhm.
very clearly stole from another song. I think I had My Sweet Lord ripped off what song? He's So Fine, the Ronnie Mac song "He's So Fine," which was a hit in 1963 for the Chiffons, and
Okay.
then My Sweet Lord came out in 1970. So he obviously heard it somewhere, it got stuck in his head, and he accidentally, we'll give George Harrison the benefit of the doubt here, accidentally, which ripped it off, and he was like, "Oh,
It
yeah, I guess I did."
it's It sometimes can happen. Like, again, it's derivative. Like, you'll be inspired by something. You'll write something in a day and a half, and people will be like, "Hey, this is a new song." They're like, "Oh, wait, that sounds very similar to this song." And I was like, "Well, I've never heard that song, but that's, I mean, it's interesting how again you can be in two different like sides of the U.S. and just come up with an idea that sounds similar because nothing really is original anymore."
Yeah, I mean, Dua Lipa, there was some Florida-based ska or reggae band that accused her of plagiarism on one of her big songs, and the big thing was access. Like, did she like, obviously, everything goes on the internet these days, but that doesn't really, prove access. Like, there's a lot of stuff on the internet that no one's ever going to see. Like they made claims that their album debuted pretty high on the Billboard reggae charts, which is not saying a lot. And also, I couldn't
Mhm.
confirm that. And I have a Billboard professional subscription. I couldn't find it. Um, and it wasn't on other streaming services. The only place that it was SoundCloud, and you can always like keep the same title, keep the upload date, keep the play count, and then put a new song file into SoundCloud. So it doesn't really pass the smell test, that one.
Yeah.
But it had been proven that she could have accessed that song, like if you find on her computer somewhere that she listened to that
Somewhere.
song on YouTube or something, I mean that's a smoking gun,
I
for
mean,
sure.
apart from that, when Ed Sheeran was on the stand, one of the things that he basically said, if I was to be obviously guilty of such a thing, it wouldn't be obviously the Marvin Gaye song. He said, if anything, it'd be Van Morrison's work, "Crazy Love," that I would be had pretty much pinned on if we were really to look at the two of those because they also have in the chorus the same descending manner in both songs.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing.
Hmm.
The band that sued Dua Lipa, I think it was an Adam Neely video. It's like, thing is, they both took this from Outkast, the Rosa Parks Outkast. That had the exact same thing that they accused Dua Lipa of stealing from them. They just took it from Outkast, and it's just a Charleston rhythm. like, you cannot, and that's like that gets into the like that's what you can't copyright. You can't copyright a Charleston rhythm. You can't copyright like shit like you can't copyright that kind of stuff. You just can't. It's too widely used
Yeah.
and it's too basic. It's a shuffle. That was a shuffle. That's not the Charleston
It's like
rhythm.
a vamp, right? Kinda like a vamp,
Yeah, it's just a
essentially.
shuffle. It's like
Yeah.
it's just a little bit.
Mhm.
I think that's Satin Doll. I don't actually know. But, like, if you wanna do, like, country music, for example, there's everyone knows the song, "Should have been different, but it wasn't different, was it? Same old story and Dear John, so long." There's a song that Nico Case recorded for her live in Austin City Limits. "In California, I dream of snow. one, I'm not a singer, and two, I spent the whole weekend singing at a Hold Steady shows, so my voice is bad. So don't judge me from that, but just know it's the exact same. So it's just like how it's played. Versus, because it's just a descending bass line
Yeah.
over a relatively boilerplate chord progression. You can't. You can't sue for you're not gonna sue
No,
for that because it's
and
just like it's not what's important about a song. What's important is the melody
melody.
and the lyrics.
Yeah, and again, like it's funny again that the Ed Townsend state is suing, Ed Sheeran on this when Ed Townsend himself is, if you look at two songs, he is would be guilty of the same thing. Whereas like his song in 1958, "For Your Love," was actually a chord progression and a harmonic rhythm from Earth Angel, which was recorded and written in 1954 by the Penguins.
Everybody borrows in music. That's just what you
Yeah.
do. It's just what you do. You learn from other people. You take that and you build on it, and that's how we get evolution in music. That's how we get more interesting music ultimately.
Yeah.
And it's really
That's
crappy
how.
to try to be like, "I came up with that first," acting like you didn't have an influence when you wrote that thing, as far as chord progressions
No.
go. Melodies
Yeah.
are a bigger thing. I know we talked about this on the show,
Hmm.
that Olivia Rodrigo, people were saying that she plagiarized Elvis Costello's "Pump It Up," and Elvis is like, "Ah, fuck, it's great. It's awesome. It's what music is
It's
all
all
about." Blah,
good.
blah, 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 blah. And, like, one thing that, this estate is suing Ed Sheeran, and some of their proof, air quotes, proof, is that he, will in concerts, because they are kind of similar chord progressions, go from thinking out loud into "Let's Get It On." It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, they're similar chord progression, they're similar tempo, they're close in key,
Same, yeah, BPM
but
is 80, yep.
it shows, like, that underlying similarity, but it also
Yeah.
highlights that the melodies are not, they're just not the same. And
No.
so going back to Elvis Costello, when he plays Allison live, sometimes he'll go into "Tracks of My Tears," the Smokey Robinson song. You think Smokey wants to sue Elvis Costello? Hell no. And I don't think that the songwriters themselves would wanna sue Ed Sheeran over this. It's just a money grab. It seems very greedy, and
It
if they
does.
win, they're going to
Yeah.
ruin intellectual property laws for musicians around the world.
Yeah, they're gonna ruin everything. I mean, I won't be able to write music practically.
No, but
Um,
the thing is it won't matter
just
unless
in
you
general.
sell a billion copies, get a billion
Yeah, that's
streams
not
or
happening.
whatever. Eh, it's dumb. It's really dumb, and, it's upsetting, and
No, it is.
I've never wanted someone to lose a court case as badly and then be forced to
Yeah.
pay damages.
No, I get you. I mean, again, we look at how Western history of music is, and we would paraphrase hymns for hundreds of years, modern jazz, like that uses the same chord progressions. And I mean, if we were going to, take a chord progression and pretty much say in the same logic, this chord progression in jazz used the same that maybe like, George Kirsch, used in the Flintstones. I guess we're going to sue those people. I mean, in
Yeah.
the end, um, it pretty much, yeah, it comes down to a cash grab. Insofar in the court case that I heard so far, and I'm going to keep listening, I guess, the following week. They also brought AI into it and
Did
asked,
they?
yes, they did. They asked GPT, to write, obviously a "Let's Get It On" song. So it did its, obviously, as we've had this conversation on the podcast before, it did its best attempt at trying to write music. And from what the reports are, what it came up with, the jurors started to chuckle and laugh because it still sounded different regardless of using like the same type of chord structure and everything. It still sounded different. So of course the Ed Townsend side didn't like that, and I said, well, this bringing AI into this is very disrespectful to, obviously legacy and whatnot. And I was just
No,
like,
you're
ah, yeah,
disrespecting your
your
forefathers'
own, yeah.
legacy great on your own. I asked ChatGPT what the chord progression was of Let's Get It On, and it said it was 1 6 1 6 4 5, to which I responded, "Are you sure Let's Get It On doesn't have a 1 3 4 5 chord progression?" I said, "I apologize for the error in my earlier response. You are correct that it is blah 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 blah." Okay. Okay, ChatGPT. Everything I asked that little shit today, I said, "Are you sure?" And then repeated it back at it, and it's like, "No, you're right, I'm wrong." Every single
My
thing I
man.
asked it today. It was so
Oh my
funny.
god.
I asked it what other songs have the 1 3 4 5 chord progression, and it says "The Twist" by Chubby Checker and "Johnny Be Good" by Chuck Berry,
Yeah.
and I don't think that's true either.
Yeah. I mean, if we look at the two songs by, Marvin Gaye and Ed Sheeran, uh, they're different. I mean, yes, at the very beginning they sound similar, but again, the chorus changes in both of them. Like shift. Ed Sheeran's song definitely shifts.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just kind of comparing the two, and it just, to me, it just doesn't add up.
No, it doesn't, and, uh but I didn't think that the Marvin Gaye estate was going to win against Blurred Lines either. So I don't know what's going to happen. Usually people on these juries don't have like the best understanding of things like music theory, which I really badly think that they need to be able to, give a correct answer, to be completely honest. It's like, so you just don't know what's going to happen. They're like, yeah, that sounds kind of similar. I see where that sounds the same. And then it breaks down if you actually put it under any scrutiny at all. It just doesn't. So,
No, and what do you call it? Also, aside from the AI this week, they also asked Ed Sheeran to get on stage. Well, not stage. Get in front of the court with his guitar and actually play. Obviously the two out, and just to start showing and singing how kind of when he's talking about the songwriting process, how fast it is that his craft in songwriting is. He's like, I did this in like a day, you know what I mean, or so. And I obviously, then shot it over to the other writer, which was Emmy Wadge, I think it was, he said. But yeah, it's just having to like show the two in front of everyone in that room. This is what it is. This is basically how they sound together. And yeah, it's a chord progression. Like that's
yeah, I mean, you better hope people understand that. I think he probably did his best to
he did.
show the differences. I mean, I feel like it should help that they're literally different chords. But it didn't help Blurred Lines that if you put the sheet music on top of each other, it doesn't look the same. It just
Yeah, it's not even
doesn't.
sampled. Yeah. I mean, even like if you look at the two, like with Ed Sheeran and Marvin Gaye, I mean, if it was sampled, then maybe you'd have something like, yeah, it was ripped. But no,
Right? Because they
it's
asked to use a
actually,
sample, they were told no, and they're like, "Well, we'll just make something similar then." And it was really stupid, really dangerous precedent, and
mm,
uh, I didn't like it. Didn't like that at all. But like, yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't think that the idea that Ed writes the songs quickly helps his case. I honestly think it
no.
hurts his case because if you're writing that quickly, maybe you're not stopping to think like, where did I get an influence from, and is that similar? Like, I was fucking sitting in band practice and I don't listen to Weezer. I'm like, I don't like Weezer. I've heard
Yeah.
Weezer on the radio. I've never sought out Weezer. I'm writing something. I'm like, this sounds really cool. And then I stopped. I'm like, I just wrote Say It Ain't So. God damn it. Um, and was like, oh, we can't use that. Band's like, why? I'm like, because it's Weezer. I think it's Weezer. I was like, "Oh, this sounds kind of like" I forget who I said it sounded like in my brain, like the Red Hot Chili Peppers or something, and I was like, "It sounds very '90s," is what it was.
Yeah.
But then it was like, oh no,
Yeah,
that's
I've come up with a chord progression before, and I was like, "Wait, no, that's creep. Fuck."
well, they stole that one. I'm
Of
pretty sure.
course. I mean, it's a
Stole. I'm
chord
sorry.
progression. Either way, it's a chord progression. Like, it's not depends on how you play it, I guess.
It depends. It depends on how you play it because I remember there was some shit going on where they were also mad.
Mhm.
I think Olivia Rodrigo and someone pointed out like, your chord progression is exactly that one, right? And I think that kind of shut them up about it. But that's the thing, like chord progression is so stupid
It is,
to
and
try to
it's
like flex on a chord progression that's relatively simple. Like maybe you made it very, very famous, but that doesn't mean you were the first person to use it. It's absurd to think that just being the one who makes a chord progression into a song that everybody knows, for better or worse, gives you more ownership of it than the place where you got it from. It just doesn't work like that.
no.
But I'm sure people wish it did. I don't know. I just don't know where people get off on like being like this, but I guess I'm not just not that greedy, and also I don't have anything that anyone's ever done that I did first. And I was like, "That's my thing. You stole my thing." It just makes me seem like a whiny little bitch.
Yeah, it's either way, it just seems like a waste of time and money to complain about such things and to string it out into court, and yeah, there's other things that we could be focusing on, obviously, and this
Yeah.
does seem like it's more, money
And
as a
I
goal.
And I think that's happening so much that you more and more see somebody given like uh songwriting credit for interpolations, which is when you kind of do exactly
Yeah,
what it sounds
when
like.
it's derivative. Yeah.
Yeah, so you derive something from something
Hmm.
and then you give somebody a songwriting credit. I know Taylor Swift is credited with some interpolations. A very famous one is Beyonce's "Hold On" contains an interpolation of a Yeah 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 song, which is it's not a sample, it's not really copyright infringement, but they're taking like a motif from another song and putting it in their song, and they're giving that person writing credit. Sam Smith, they gave writing credit to Tom Petty for "Stay With Me" because it sounds quite similar to "Won't Back Down." It does sound pretty similar. I get it. I don't really agree with it, but I do get it. It's better to be safe
Yeah.
than sorry, because if someone sues you for infringement, they can I've said this before on this podcast, they can do whatever they want if they win. They can take all the money if they want. They can have the copies destroyed if they want. That's impossible
Oof.
these days, but back when all mediums were physical mediums, you could essentially destroy the remaining stock. But
Jesus.
only if you register for copyright. Technically, you don't have to, but it helps if you do. I know you can do it later as well. If you're really worried about it, register your copyright so you can get more damages. Yeah. That's my not legal advice today. I am not a lawyer,
Hmm.
but did study music business. This week's episode of Get Offset is brought to you by Moog Music. Moog instruments continue to inspire artists and listeners around the world. As music technology continues to evolve, the company and its employee owners carry on Bob Moog's devotion to creating innovative tools designed for the musician. Moog Music's latest venture is a reimagining of some of its most influential analog instruments of the past for today's audio production workflow. The Moogerfooger Effects Plug-ins are compatible across all major DAWs on Windows and Mac OS, making the Moog sound more accessible than ever. I use the MF108 Cluster Flux, a flexible processor that can modulate between chorus, flanging, and vibrato in the background track you're listening to right now. I love this effect. It's probably the most used of the plugins. For me personally, I even use it in a recent recording project. Learn more about the Moogerfooger Effects plugins by clicking the link in the video or podcast description or by visiting software.moogmusic.com. That's software.moggmusic.com.
Thanks again, Moog.
Thanks again, Moog. Thanks, Moog. Moog, thank you.
Thank you.
I clapped out and then I said to Joe, "You say thanks again, Moog." And Joe sure did it. No, but
It was
seriously, thank you, Moog. Please consider using the affiliate links in the show notes or video description. The Moog one's just a tracked link to their website. The Sweetwater one is actually an affiliate link, and we do get a small portion of that sale shared with us.
thank you.
It's pretty nice. It's pretty thoughtful to use those affiliate codes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Big appreciation. I think those were on sale last week. I hope y'all bought them last week because they're cool. So I was in Portland last week. That was awesome.
I love Portland.
Yes, lots of cool people in Portland. I was down there to see the Hold Steady. They had a run of 3 shows, but when I got down there, I went over to hang out with Chris Benson for a little bit. I
Awesome.
didn't play the new Fuzz or the Delay at NAMM, so I got to play it there. They're both really, really, really cool. The Fuzz is just sick, man. Like, it's fuzzier, as he said, but it also gets relatively clean and nice. Just adds some good like depth texture to your sound. And the delay was super cool. I really, really liked that delay.
I really liked
Um,
it too.
the repeats get really short. There are some like secondary functions, like you can change the waveform and the modulation. I don't want to get too spoilery, and it was because it's not even done, but
No, you're
uh,
gonna make me, like, scream inside of, like, anticipation.
it was very promising and cool delay.
So
So,
excited.
really excited to see what all they come out with this year. I think it's going to be a good year for them, and that means it's a good year for guitar community in general.
Yes.
So then the next day, I got to check out the Cattle and Bread offices, and that was sick. The whole building
Nice.
is painted. They had it commissioned to be painted. And it's like an old church. So you walk in the main area, and it's like where everyone's populating the PCBs and stuff. And there's like a very, very small stage in the back of the room. And there's a little solder pool, which I'd never actually seen one of those in person before. So they basically
Yeah.
they populate the components and they dip them in the solder pool and then they clean it up. It was very T2. Just like
Oh,
this,
shit.
it's like a mirror.
T-1000, yeah.
Yeah, I'll put a video on Instagram
Oh, cool.
of it
Yeah, I
all.
wanna see that.
Yeah, and then they had this cool little secret garden room, which I'll also post a video of that on Instagram. But it
Nice.
was really fun. Big shout out to the whole team there, especially Joey, for
Hey,
making me
Joey.
feel at home. They gave me and my husband a shirt and they gave me a sweater,
Aw.
which is I'm glad they did because I think we miscounted the number of days we were in Portland, both of us, and we were like, I think
Oh,
we ran
no.
out of shirts. Also, big shout out to Hank's Music Exchange in Portland. I got to check out that shop. Unfortunately, Hank wasn't there, but I bought a little pedal. It's over there. I'm not gonna grab it right now, but it was like a $70 lo-fi overdrive, and I just played it for a little bit. I'm like, this is worth $70, and now I impulse bought
Yep,
something.
you're coming home with me, little friend.
You're coming home with me. Uh, that's not how that TikTok sound goes. Remember when that was the big TikTok sound?
No one.
No? Okay.
No.
It's TikTok is funny because it's one of those places where you and someone else can be on completely different sides of TikTok,
Yeah.
and you'll have something completely take over your feed, and you'll try and be talking to this like drama with a friend, and they'll be like, "Chelsea, what now? The guy? The why is she so mad?" Kind of stuff. The rock thief. Lots of great drama on TikTok. Highly
Oh
recommend.
my god. I
Yeah.
am mostly surfing, like, the, creative content, you know, music, like, cat videos, video games, like, that kinda stuff, and
Yeah.
comedy.
Mine's mostly music nerds and cat videos. So it's
See,
just
well,
my
that's
hap
where we can converge. We can converge on the cat videos.
It's like I always tell people like, "Oh, TikTok's got like those dumb dances." I'm like, "I never see the dumb
I
dances."
never see them at all, like,
Yeah.
it's totally, like, not ever shown to me at all.
No. It's just and it's a new world of very like people who are very how can you be famous if you're famous on in one niche on one platform? But they are. I saw
Yeah,
a
it's
guy I recognized
interesting.
from TikTok at NAMM.
Oh, I did too. I saw quite a few people that I recognized just walked by, but of course, my introversion is more like, okay, online I can talk, yeah, no problem. But in person, yeah, I see them. They can walk
No.
by. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna approach them. I see them.
I always won I always wonder how often TikTok people are recognized. I only get recognized at Hold Steady shows and some guitar stores,
Yeah.
which is enough. That's enough. That is the level of strangers coming up to me, knowing my name and my cat's name. That's enough.
Yeah,
Some
I
you don't
think
know
I
coming. How's
yeah,
how's Princess?
I think that's only happened to me once so far, and it was interesting to say the least.
That was
I
at
don't know if I
NAMM,
could.
wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a damn. I was just like, "What?" Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, it was interesting. I
And
mean,
and
I
then that
didn't
guy had
expect
dinner
it.
with us.
Yes, Steven was awesome. I was great. I'm actually glad you invited him too. I liked him.
Yeah, I was a couple margaritas in. Um, that was fun, but I was in Portland mostly to see the Hold Steady, hang out with friends, and,
Mm,
on Sat so, for those who don't know, the Hold Steady, their way of touring for the most part now is they fly into a
mm,
city, they do 3 to 4 shows, and they do, like, a sound check and maybe another special event with fans. The special event with fans, that's not a sound check, that's pretty new to Portland. I think they've tried to
mm.
do it at their annual Brooklyn shows before, but it was an afternoon with basically the band members talking about their passions, and the first one of the day was a guitar clinic with Tad and Steve, and I texted Steve, like, a couple weeks ago. I'm like, "If you need a moderator for that, Blake from the Tone Mob lives in Portland. Also, I'll be there."
Hint, hint,
So,
wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
I'll do it. I'll do it. And, they invited me to moderate. They said they'd been thinking about getting a
Yay.
moderator, and I did it. I had a really fun time. It was recorded by the band. I hope it ends up on the internet, but it was really, really cool just to be able to, talk to those guys at once, ask them kind of interviewee style questions because we've had them on the podcast before, both
Mm,
together and just Steve. And but just not as it wasn't as focused because this was like it had an outline, which was cool. We obviously deviated from that quite a bit. That's just going to
mm.
happen with those
Of
guys.
course.
But for the most part, we kind of kept to the script and had a lot of fun, and people came up to me afterwards, told me I did a good job. I was like, "Good," because
Aw.
it felt like it went really well. But like the worst thing is like to feel like something went really well, and then everyone
And
to go
then,
like,
yeah. Yeah.
"Not so much."
I've been there. Yeah, I've been there.
Oh, it's the worst feeling
It
because
is. Like, "Yeah, I
usually,
did great," and they were like, "No, no, 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 that,
yeah,
you know."
you didn't, you didn't. See, but I usually like can tell when I'm failing and flailing.
Oh, yeah.
There,
No, I can too.
It was, like, one of the first questions I asked was, like, asking about, like, the approach to guitar, and then there was, like, a very pregnant pause. I was like, "Oh, fuck. It's not a great start." But,
No.
no, but it was like it just felt longer than it was. We moved on. It got some great answers, learned some really cool things. I learned that neither of them really reads tabs. They, like,
Really?
yeah, Tad, because Tad had texted me, he's like, "Yeah, someone who picks up guitar by really well by ear," meaning himself. Like, I'm
Mm,
curious what, like, parts on the record you'd think people would be curious about learning because there was, like kind of like a tutorial, but it's a little bit hard to show somebody how to play something in that kind of environment.
Yeah.
So they kinda talked more about, like, the approach to a couple of riffs and licks and songs, and, it was really, really, really fun. Like, I'm just sitting between the 2 guitarists in my favorite band, and they're just playing
Yeah.
guitar. I'm like, "This is
Just sitting
it's
there,
great."
just going, just looking left and looking right. No, I'm in the middle of this. This is great.
This is great. Great. It was an Emily sandwich and the guitars from the Hold Steady on either end. That was a weird thing to say. Um, it's
Oh
okay.
my
They said weirder things on stage, and I cannot wait for the video to come out.
out of context.
At one point, Steve, like, they were just complimenting each other, and he's like, "Look at us jacking each other off." And I'm like, "Oh, should I leave?"
Like, look at us. Yeah, just who would have thought? Not me.
It was really great. Thanks so much to the band for inviting me to be a part of that. It was so
That's awesome.
fun. I'm glad everything went well. The shows were great. The venue was not stoked on the amount of confetti that was thrown. So the second 2
Oh,
nights
no.
uh, people stayed and cleaned it up. I stayed the last night to help clean it up because you gotta know who you're
Mm,
booking, you know? You really should know if you're booking the whole stay there's going to be confetti
Mufetti
throws.
confetti, yeah.
The first night, a security guard, after the first confetti throw, I think they knew the second one was happening because they kinda had positions on the side of the stage, so they saw it, like, being distributed. He comes to the
Yeah.
crowd